So today on Screenshots, we're taking a interesting look at probably some people think was robbed for the 1976 Oscar by Rocky, Network. Now, Network seems to have more resonance in 2019 than it did in the mid-70s. And it's a satirical film written by Paddy Chayefsky and directed by Sidney Lumet about a fictional television station called UBS, and its struggle with poor ratings. Now, the film won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Actor for the great Peter Finch, Best Actress for Faye Dunaway, Best Supporting Actress for Beatrice Straight, and Chayefsky for Best Original Screenplay. Now, the plot of the movie itself, it's sort of like a TV movie gone bad. Now, in the movie, Howard Beale, kind of a Walter Cronkite, Howard K. Smith character. He's a longtime anchor of UBS, and he learns from his friends in the Friend and News Division, President Max Schumacher, played by William Holden, that he has been put on 2 weeks' notice on the air because of declining ratings. They go on a drunk together and lament the state of the industry, and the following night, Beale decides, hey, I'm going to commit suicide on the next Tuesday's broadcast to let people know how I feel about my firing. Now, he's eventually quickly fired, but then Schumacher intervenes so that Beale can have a dignified farewell. Beale promises he will, clean up his act, but he went on a rant saying that, life is bullshit and this is all a bunch of craziness. Now, because these outbursts lead to the ratings to spike, the upper echelons of UBS decide to exploit Beale's antics to keep him on the air. And eventually a weird sequence of events occurs. The Beale character takes rotating strokes, which cause his mental faculties to get more freaky. He becomes like a preacher of the air, and half the stuff he's saying is criticizing the corporate system. And there's all different subplots about the Faye Dunaway character, the programmer, trying to recruit fascist organizations for something called the Mao Zedong Hour. It basically is in a parallel universe where, people are trying to get the best ratings possible through the exploitations of people. Now, why Peter Finch, I think, won Best Actor over William Holden for this part, is basically, he was actually dying in real life. He had just several months to live before he did the movie. He died before, he could receive his Oscar for Best Actor. But he plays the character sort of like over the top, but as one that basically, we're not sure if his mental illness is causing this, or it's deep down in his soul that's coming out because he only has a short time to live or wants to live. And the famous incident where, I'm as bad as hell, I'm not going to take this anymore. That's been a mantra for years, but unfortunately most people that use it to describe certain events have lost the real meaning of the expression. He basically, it's a cry out for justice in relation to finding out the truth. It's not about being angry, it's about demanding the truth. I'm as bad as hell, I'm not going to take this anymore. Please tell us what's really going on. Respect us as the individual. It's a very, socialist movie because it basically talks about the importance of the individual in any type of system. Now, as the movie goes on, there's great performances, especially by Robert Duvall, who's another higher up, who basically feels that the Holden and Finch characters are net bars and he doesn't want to deal with them on a regular basis. But the Dunaway character, she basically is using her love of what they call corporate television to get her jollies off. There's a famous scene where she's making love to William Holden, and you see where her sexual, desires lie. It's nothing from a physical standpoint. It's basically having the power through the corporate means that she uses. It's a very complex movie. You have to watch it 2 or 3 times, and it's something to be studied from a perspective. Now, did it predict the rise of reality TV? Yes, but reality TV has never been the level of this movie. This was sort of like a farce within a farce within a farce. But the Howard Beale character seems to me to be more an example of what could happen if Walter Cronkite or Stan Donaldson or people of his ilk would really freak out on television and really tell the public what they really believed in. You don't see much honesty in modern news because there's a script, literally. And in this case, the Howard Beale character, they were using him to drive ratings, but to what purpose? He never really explained in the movie, which I think is the big fault. It was all a bunch of monetary mumbo jumbo, but he never really explained why would anybody buy an ad on a show that seemed to be running, no commercials. It's only at the end we find out there is commercials as part of the show, but when Beale's performance is presented, it seems like 15-minute vignette, so that needed to be explained a little bit more. Now, the casting for the movie again was terrific. Critical reception was terrific, but this sounds kind of bizarre. After years later, the movie was brought to the stage at the National Theatre of London in 2017, with, of all people, Bryan Cranston as Howard Beale, and of course the great Tony Goldwyn as Max Schumacher. So the stage version, I haven't seen it yet, but I heard it's pretty good. But Bryan Cranston seems to be the connection between Peter Finch and a modern era, great actor of course, and it just recently opened on Broadway, actually in December of 2018. So I'll be interested to see how it plays out in the long term. So again, on this beautiful February morning, we're waiting another mini storm to come into New Brunswick. But if you have a chance to see Network, and 1976 was a great year for movies, but I really don't think Faye Dunaway really should have won Best Actress for this. It was okay, but it wasn't over the top. But if it was a year they could do 2 Best Actor awards, I think William Holden was just as good as Peter Finch, because he was playing a person at the end of his rope. At the time, William Holden was going through a lot of problems still with drink and his personality. And but Beatrice Straight playing the dismayed wife, who was a 6-minute performance, is probably one of the greatest breakup scenes in movie history, and she plays it to the hilt. And I heard it was ad-libbed of all things. So again, Robert Duvall is great in this, but he and evil Robert Duvall is a different type of thing. Maybe we'll do another podcast on just how evil Duvall could be in certain roles. Anyway, so again, keep your stick in the ice. Hope to find you well. Bye.